It's that time of year again, back to Sydney Motorsport Park, and as the sun sets on World Time Attack Challenge, the track is about to heat up as the International Drifting Cup returns to Sydney's South Circuit for the first time in 5 years. Joining me in the commentary booth, I have a representative of the judging panel, Dan Mackey. And Dan, we have a few changes this year.
Ian Baker and the team from Superlap Australia give us a blank sheet here, Dave, to go and create something different. We've taken last year's battles and we've tuned them up a little bit. We've got 40 drivers, we've changed the point structure a little bit, and we've gone back to the South Circuit. So definitely some interesting stuff you can see there. We've got an initiation point, fairly usual track, through turn 7, up through 8, around through 9 where we switch it off, just before we get to 10 where the finish line is.
Another change for this year is that we're running a pool format for qualifying. Think of it like your sporting World Cups in your football or soccer, where basically the drivers are drawn out of a hat, put into a number of pools, going up against each other rather than qualifying solo, as we're seeing from Matty Hills and Ben Jenkins here, getting comfortable with that downhill entry into Sydney Motorsport Park South Circuit. Now, Dan, it's a bit of an interesting way to score this. Can you walk us through exactly how these battles are scored and how that affects the drivers moving into the battle tree?
So last year we had a 2-1 and a 0 system, which was basically if you won the battle you got 2, if you drew it was 1 each, and if you lost obviously you got 0 points. We found that kind of brought things a little bit too close together. So what we've done this time is the points are the points that are actually awarded by the judge. So for example, in this battle where Matty Hill probably gets something like a 7-3 there, he'll take those 7 points, and obviously Dab's going off, is probably going to adjust that, but he'll take 7 points, Dabs will take the 3, and that goes towards their score. And obviously there's 3 judges, so each lead you get an opportunity to earn yourself 30 points, and then obviously in the chase you get an opportunity to earn another 30 points. So it's a total of 60 that gets split up. You can see this one, obviously Finio Hare stopping there, and Ben Jenkins getting a 60-point win there. And that did happen a little bit. One of the things we're going to look at next year is maybe tuning up a little bit more there and see if we can't change around how that all works. Dabs then again picking up a big score over Finio Hare, who had a drive shaft failure there, I think.
Well, it's an unfortunate thing. Drive lines do get sacrificed quite regularly in drifting, but I like the idea of giving these drivers battle practice from day dot and getting out there, getting comfortable with what the judge line looks like and what they need to do to be favourable in the judge's eyes. We see a little bit of messy driving here throughout the pools, but it just means that the cream can float to the top and get through into that top 16, top 8, top 4, and then into the finals.
Yeah, Matty Hill bringing his car back from New Zealand for this event too. Great to see him back in that yellow performance car that he really loves driving that. Had an awesome battle here with Finio Hare, who was a little bit hit hot and cold this weekend. Had a couple of mechanical dramas as well, but overall not too bad.
So on the other side of Pool A, Aaron Duar overall got quite a strong average score there, with Matty Hill not far behind him, which means that those 2 drivers will be going through. We then have in Pool B a couple of drivers here, including internationals like Andy Gray and Naoki Nakamura, straight from Japan, 2 serious drivers. And here we see them going up to battle together. Huge entry there from Naoki Nakamura, but just that little bit slow, speed stalling on the entry there. And as the cars tried to pendulum back, Andy Gray's had nowhere to go in that 1,000 horsepower JZX 100 from Power Vehicles, going into the rear quarter of the Team Burst S15, also making 1,000 horsepower. Geez, a lot of the cars in this field have quite a lot of power under the bonnet, with Levi Clark and Matt Harvey battling here as well. You know, Dan, the pool battles, it might be a different format, but from a judge's perspective, how did that allow you guys to work together to make sure that those finals were quite fair?
I guess it's one of those things, you know, you judge it as you see fit. You look at the criteria that we set. You know, we told the drivers, even though, as you'd know, having driven South Circuit yourself, when you throw it in there to that first corner of turn 6, that perfect opportunity to do a big backwards entry in there, and that was something we told them we didn't want to have in the drivers' meeting earlier on in the weekend. As far as having that opportunity to work through and make sure the top rises to the top, you know, guys are out there making mistakes. You know, when you don't give them that initial little work up in a qualifying scenario, they have this opportunity to get in there, and I guess effectively the pool phase is like qualifying but in battle format. So we give them scores, and you know, the idea behind this, whatever score you get, you've earned, and it goes towards your total tally, should see the top drivers rising to the top.
It means that everyone's driving at race pace from the very start. Speaking of a car with pace, I know I've already talked about it, but the Power Vehicles JZX 100 one of my favourites worldwide. This car you see driving all over the place and really resetting speed records. Also stoked to see Nakamura here with that killer chase technique up against Levi Clark, a car that caught fire days before the event and was rushed back together. Also, you know, a big name in the Australian drift scene with that Turbo LS S15. So cool to see huge names from different sides of the world going up against each other, with Levi Clark sort of battling it out on home turf. But it is Sydney Motorsport Park and he's a Queenslander south of the border, so anything can happen here. And Levi Clark actually in the Gardner Cars LS-powered Ford Ranger there. Looks like he subbed himself in for one of these Pool B battles.
Having a few issues with the S15, so he had the Gardner Cars Ford Ranger there with a little bit more damage on it than it started with. The car, they were doing demos with at lunchtime, so it actually had to be scrutinied as a racing car under the rules of the event. Levi, obviously a driver, so it was just a matter of doing a car change for him, and he was able to jump into that. So pretty lucky for Levi to have a spare car on board there and really able to do a good job with it.
Matt Harvey managing to float to the top of Pool B, representing Tasmania, closely followed by Andy Gray, and unfortunately Naoki Nakamura going home by just half a point. That is devastating because he's a driver I was personally looking forward to representing that Team Burst B-knuckle driving style down under. Anyway, back into the action. We have Adam Monk leading Shane Van Gisbergen, V8 Supercars superstar in the MCA Z. What a great looking car. Courtney's down in the pits catching up with him.
Yeah, that's right. I'm joined by Shane Van Gisbergen, who really needs no introduction, but you're used to finding apexes around here, and now you're looking at them perpendicular.
Yeah, well, we're meant to miss them by a little bit, but awesome first run. The car's handling really nice. Got a different front end I've never driven before, and so much lock, it's unreal.
That VK56 powered Z all the way down under, coming from Formula Drift and Chris Forsberg, who we've also seen driving at the International Drifting Cup. Another big name in the field there, Jake Jones in that Power Tunes M3, the RV M3 as it's known. Some of you all might recognise him from the interwebs, battling out Adam Monk there in the big twin turbo V8 Newell on S14. What a battle of the Titans. We've also got Troy Jenkins coming over from D1NZ. Big power 8.6 with a JZ under the bonnet. Makes quite a lot of power, but no problems for the MCA suspension. 370Z keeping up there. It's a serious field of cars with a lot of power and a lot of driver talent amongst these pools. So as a judge, it must be really hard to separate them. I mean, what are you guys on the judging panel looking for and nitpicking these drivers on?
Well, I guess basically it's for us as a judge, it's very similar to what we normally would do. It's just the way the points are tallied. So, we asked them to make sure they didn't over-rotate past 90 there. You can see, and a lot of the keen people that have seen this circuit before would definitely see the change in lines. Kiichi Tsuchiya, who's our head judge, obviously setting a nice fast racing line for this bit, and Jake Jones having a mechanical issue here. That's one way that you could definitely get yourself a 10-0, which of course over all the judges ends up being quite a big score. We wanted to see nice aggressive battles, and you can see Shane Van Gisbergen there demonstrating perfectly, getting right up on that door and scoring a good chunk of points by being aggressive in that chase position. All of us there quite excited.
Cool to see how much the judges get behind the sport, all of them having driven. And of course, Kiichi Tsuchiya, the grandfather of drifting, who has turned it into official motorsport and is allowing these internationals to travel around the world doing what we all love. Shane Van Gisbergen, the cross motorsport pollinator here. He's in first position there at Pool C, followed by Troy Jenkins over from D1NZ. Now, a couple more internationals in this pool here in the Garrett Advancing Motion International Drift Cup. But a face we are familiar with there, Brad Toohey in the twin supercharged V8 8.6. Out in front of Michael Kelly there, seeming to open a bit of a gap. We have Masashi Yokoi, huge story, current reigning champion of D1 GP, up against a well-ranked driver as well from China, Chen Wenquan, otherwise known as Drift Ken on the social medias.
We've got a really big field of international drivers here. 14 have made the journey to Sydney Motorsport this time, and the first time we've seen the Chinese drivers come and throw down with the rest of the international drivers. Jerry Zhu, who's also over from China, competes a little bit in the D1NZ back over in New Zealand as well. So we've got, I think, the biggest field we've ever assembled definitely in Australia and possibly even in Australasia of international drivers. So it's exciting to see these guys throwing down. It's giving our boys an opportunity, and Yokoi was just killing it right out of the gate, so right on the numbers there as well. Josh Botcher really sticking it to them in the pool phase.
Hey, one of the things I've been keeping an eye on and that I encourage all of you at home to watch as well is just the driving style of Yokoi. You know, reigning D1 GP champion, but a thing that I love and aspire to as a driver myself is watching that minimal smoke, minimal wheel speed driving style. And you'll notice that compared to a lot of the local drivers who do seem to tend towards, you know, putting the foot down, getting the speed there, getting as much out as you can. And yes, there is a lot of power pouring off the back of that 2JZ S15, but he's very closely matching the rear wheel speed to the front wheel speed to the point that he's only just overcoming the traction and maintaining the maximum speed you can get through those corners. So I'm going to have my eye on Yokoi the whole way through the night.
Yeah, you can certainly see that his smoke thickness wasn't quite as much, and that indicates a lower wheel speed from a judging perspective that we use. And another interesting fact here is we've got Michael Kelly, Mickey Moo as he's fondly known over here in Australia, out there and active at the moment. Mickey's one of those reserve drivers, so part of the International Drifting Cup is we have 2 reserve drivers in case you have a mechanical failure. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on, Dave.
So Yokoi securing himself that first position in Pool D, followed by Josh Botcher, Brad Toohey just missing out, and we're on to Pool E with Matt Van Kirk on that extended Australian holiday. We've seen him down here wrapping up a couple of comps, you know, borrowing some of the Running Hearts Drift Crew cars that seem to get the keys thrown around quite often. But Angus Kidd rocketing in there on the chase with some exceptional speed, and man, is he one hungry driver.
Angus was really, really happy to be coming along. This is his first time at the International Drifting Cup and at World Time Attack, so he was pretty excited to get out there. We can see Glenn Ormerod out there in the Shannon's Z. Obviously a pretty cool concept and story behind that. The other one in there is Mitch Pullen isn't actually driving the JDM garage. He's being subbed, as I was talking about these subs. So we've got Ben Maloney, who was one of our super subs out there having a crack. But yeah, Glenn Ormerod in that winner drives.
So finding himself in the first position at Drift Masters, the ex-Rob White 370Z supercharged V8 powered beast of a thing had the keys thrown to Glenn Ormerod. The protege of Bo Yates has been driving quite well in a rotary-powered K70, stepping up into a much more powerful, much heavier car. Seemed to be learning the ropes with it, but how good is it to have a sponsored drive in a field like this at the Garrett Advancing Motion International Drifting Cup?
I tell you what, it's a pretty big prize, and Glenn did really well in a car that's a lot bigger, a lot heavier, a lot more power to adapt pretty well. Very smooth, consistent as you see there. Another driver doing really well, Warwick Hill, just out of the box, bang on, really, really driving it hard this time. And he's been off for a little while with a few engine dramas, a couple of mechanical problems that he's been working through, sorting out. Decided to go right back, strip the car all the way back, rebuild it from the base up again, and the thing ran flawlessly all weekend.
Mitch Pullen there. You don't see too many Hilux utes out on the drift track being chased down by Angus Kidd. Some interesting automobiles that end up on a drift track, Dan, and I love nothing more than just getting that weird underdog chassis, dumping a bunch of power, some interesting suspension setups in it, and throwing down, seeing what works for you, because at the end of the day, drifting is so much more about personal style and personal skill than it is about the setup. You can have wires, fab, stock knuckles, big turbo, T28 SR20, you know, either ends of the scale. If you know how to drive and you know how to stick it on someone's door, you've got a likelihood of getting through. Although, to be fair, a field of this caliber, you're going to have to be bringing something pretty special.
Yeah, for sure. You can't just turn up and hope for a little bit of luck on this one, in this field. It's a big field. We've got almost all of the top Australian drivers have come down and had a go. And then, of course, with, like I said, 14 international drivers in the field, all with, you know, multiple championships behind them in their own countries. There was no room to blink.
Huge entry there from Blake Patterson, a local driver and a good mate to boot. He a very good driver there and seemed to throw down an entry that just threw off the chase car a little bit there, but maintained the speed, didn't end up in a spin or a speed stall. So very interesting. Now Michael Bonney chasing Jerry Zhu there, 2 wild-looking S15s, both with plenty of punch under the bonnet. We're in the vicinity of 1,200 horsepower each, which is drag racing numbers. This is wild.
Michael Bonney being super consistent out the front there, Dave. He's just been ticking the boxes and making sure he collects his points. He's doing a very good job. But, of course, great to see Mitch Jeffrey back in the seat. Blake Patterson again, another driver that's really consistent, picking all the boxes up there. A little bit of a rough one from Mitch in the back. But really just working themselves out and understanding all these drivers having different ideas on which way was the best way to get through the pool. So Michael Bonney had Damien Cook, who's a Pro-Am driver, spotting for him this weekend. They had a bit of a powwow. They were talking about they want to just try and be consistent, pick up the points, make sure they go through to the next side. Whereas some of these other guys, Nathan Greenhill being quite aggressive in the chase position, Jerry Zhu making an error there, which is definitely going to affect him a little bit in this battle.
It's such a hard thing in competitive drifting because you're right, you can have two different mindsets of, okay, I heard what the judges said, I need to be clean, I need to be calm, I need to come through these clipping points. There's other people who go, I'm out here to put on a show, the judges reward aggression, let's get close, let's do these huge entries, let's keep the speed up, and neither is right or wrong. Both are fantastic to watch, but it's just interesting to see each driver approaching what is quite a unique format in having the pools here, accumulating points. Rather than it being a win or lose battle and then moving on to the next one, each set of points counts. Man, what an angle.
That's a great shot looking in through the roof there of Michael Bonney's car. You could see the NOS bottle sitting there just ready for when Michael needed to punch a little bit more into that thing. Some great battles. Really, really enjoyed watching these guys. And Dave, every pool was just so close and so hard to pick who was going to be on top of it. So, having those points, and this one being, I think, the only one that was actually drawn in the whole of the weekend, both drivers picking up 30 points each.
So there we have it, Pool F decided with Nathan Greenhill and Michael Bonney going through. Blake Patterson just missing out in that third spot there. But what a tough pool with all drivers being over 100 points. Well, we have seen some hits and misses into Pool G. You can see Bo the Show, Yates, and Mitchell Doyle, two drivers who've really been having fantastic years so far, along with Dale Campaign in this awesome looking S13. Very similar to the old school days of drifting. I dig that styling, but unfortunately just coming in that little bit too tight on Bo there and being left behind.
It was super important to make sure that you got turn one right. Kiichi was talking through the weekend about how getting turn one was key to linking up the rest of it and getting it through. The boys there from Jesse Greenslade Drift watching on SVG, obviously from New Zealand originally, although he resides on the Gold Coast now. Still watching and knowing the boys, wanting to see them go through. So, like I was saying before, that getting turn one was really, really key to getting that line, that really fast line right. Those that got it right were able to get it nicely turned in and just punch it straight up that hill through that fast line that Keisha Sachia had set us.
They say the camera adds 10 pounds, but on racetracks it also flattens out undulations. So the track does have a lot more of an elevation change than it looks, with this entry being quite a downhill and then this section through here quite flat. But it is pretty steep up the hill. So you're right, Dan, if you wash off too much speed on the first entry or don't get on the power early enough through that flat section, you find yourself just unable to pack on that road speed as you go up the hill. And especially in a high-powered car, like a lot of the ones you see in the field here, they're just blazing the tyres away instead of being able to climb the hill. So it's a layout that really rewards the driver who understands the relationship between front and rear wheel speed, making sure that you're keeping your road speed up and being consistent through the clips rather than, big brake, handbrake, bit of foot brake, slow mid-corner and getting back on it. You're just not going to get anywhere on Sydney Motorsport Park South Circuit.
Exactly right. It's a very, very technical circuit, and unfortunately you really needed to be trackside to be able to see those undulations. You don't see it like you say in the camera. So managing the wheel speed at different sectors around the track is really, really important. Mitch Doyle just having a little bit of an error there. Looks like it might have finally raised his head and bit him on the butt, but we'll keep sending him here. Jesse Greenslade with a full billet RB30 under the bonnet of that thing. What a weapon that car is.
I love the battle between these two cars as well, because they're just such a, yes, aggressive, but a simple drift car look as well. Flat colour, red versus the carbon fibre body, minimal stickers, just tough, aggressive, I'm here to drive hard. Bo Yates getting through in that pool there, and Jordan Graham in that all carbon fibre 180SX that I just referenced there, making his way through. A driver I've been really eager to see, Miki Takagi, representing the women in the field and in the sport. All the way down here is the Team Burst teammate to Naoki Nakamura that we were talking about before. Drives a classic drift setup in an SR20 powered S13. Drives the wheels off it, and a driver I was so excited to see down under. Managed to borrow the keys to a car to come and compete, Dan.
Molino Australia have been huge supporters of the International Drifting Cup since its inception last year, and they've actually one of their cars they've decided to bring it down. They tuned it up. It's a slightly bigger engine in that, the 1.5J with a big turbo. Oh, Danny Probert into the back of Billick's car. They're really, really pushing hard. That's not what you want to do to the XD. But as I was saying, Dave, you know, Haltech have come on board and provided an ECU to the Bellino car so that they can tune it up properly. Garrett, who are our major sponsor for the Garrett International Drifting Cup, also providing a turbo. So just a group of people getting together, and you can see now the damage on Danny Probert's car is quite substantial.
Yeah, had a bit of a bobble on the entry there. Is also, I wonder if in hitting Billick's car in the rear, maybe something a bit funky going on with the steering in the front end. Billick's car, though, seems to be unaffected. Nice big entry there with Miki Takagi coming in hot on the tail, but just not quite getting the hang of, you know, this probably bigger turbo, bigger powered car where that little peppy SR20 is just straight back on the power again. So, funnily enough, to be battling against Anthony Billick, who's one of the proponents of the SR20, you know, has been battling that thing for years, mid to high 300 kilowatt point now, and knows how to drive that thing back to front. So interesting to see those two come together.
Yeah, it looked like something happening a bit with both of those cars there, and Ben Maloney getting another start here as our substitute driver coming in. So he's ended up. We had a couple of withdrawals as well. So Ben Maloney got into the points and was categorised. Some good shots there of celebration signage on the sideline there. A new backer coming on board and helping us out, and they'll be obviously prominent in the celebrations. Vicky Lane a little bit later on, Dave.
If there's one thing the drifters love to do after a drift event, it is celebrate. So thanks for coming on board celebrations. Now, here's Billick going in again. Big understeer there. Seemed to get a bit lost behind Ben Maloney, who is blazing his way up South Circuit. Seems right at home there through the top of the hill, but a lot of speed from Anthony Billick's car. They're able to reel him back in. So this is what our Pool H finish looks like. Danny Probert and X-Drift getting the top spot, while Brody Mayer in the white S13 with the X-Hammerhead billet blocked SR20 in there gets himself a spot. Now, Aaron Dual will be facing off against Matt Van Kirk. We've got Harvey and Bonnie facing off Van Gisbergen and my boy Jordan Graham. Yokoya and Mayer, that's going to be an interesting battle. But the two Hill brothers on the other side of the tree, that's huge. Nathan Greenhill going up against Andy Gray, Bo Yates and Troy Jenkins, and Danny Probert facing off against Josh Botcher to round out your top 16. The stage is set as the International Drifting Cup continues under light. We'll have the top 16 on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. We're back at Sydney Motorsport Park at the Garrett International Drifting Cup. On the other side of the break, we saw the pool battles go through, so our top 16 is decided, and we'll be moving into a more traditional battle style from here on out. Now, the first cabs off the rank will be Matt Van Kirk and that Running Hard's Drift Crew red S13, with Aaron Jouar in the lead there in the Cloud Factory Jouar Racing Engines S14.
Bit of a slow start there from Aaron, just getting away from the line. Matt Van Kirk's been very, very consistent, although as I say that, commentator's curse, he drops a wheel there and that's going to be a deduction for him and a definite advantage across to Aaron on that lead.
As we head to the Albans action replay, we can see that Matt Van Kirk right there with Aaron Jouar, but on the switchback, coming through the smoke and just ending up that little bit shallow, grabbing some foot brake there, trying to work out a way to bring it around, but it hasn't quite worked for him. Let's see how he goes in the lead now, Dan.
An interesting one there, watching back through the replay, you could see that Aaron was actually really slow in his entry, and it might be something that's causing him a bit of an issue, but sort of threw Matt off in the chase position. They were asked to get in there quickly and get through it, and definitely a little bit slow from Aaron. Matt Van Kirk, though, this time just throwing down, picking up those clips, a real stellar lead run.
There's the confirmation. Matt Van Kirk getting through there, knocking out Aaron Jouar. I'm sure he's a little bit gutted about that as a driver who's always there with the whole family behind him. We're going to head down to the pits now with J-Mac to see what Van Kirk thought of that battle.
Matt Van Kirk won his elimination battle up against Aaron Dua. No mean feat. But we were saying earlier, the entry to turn one here now feels slow in comparison to how it was showing up in practice yesterday. Why is that?
Yeah, correct. Well, they changed the layout on us a bit. They shrunk the entry about half from what it was yesterday. So yesterday was pretty much top of fourth entry. Now I'm barely getting to fourth and having to kick it out. They're just doing that because we've been tearing up the track. You know, this is a beautiful track here in Sydney, and we don't want to ruin the track. And it's actually better for the fans too, because it's easier to chase the lead driver and put a good show for the fans.
Good to hear from a driver's perspective how things have changed here. So as much as I'm a big proponent of fastest entry possible, it does make a bit of sense, and ARDC do need to look after their track. So it means we're seeing closer battles here, and that's exactly what's going on as we head into Michael Bonney chasing Matt Harvey in the Power Plus S13 out in front. But man, so hard to chase that huge power S15 of Michael Bonney.
Really, really tricky line too. A lot of the drivers were talking about how when you come around there you get lost in smoke. Fortunately, Matt Harvey not quite on the line, so he's trying to modulate that throttle and get himself back in there. Michael Bonney taking every single opportunity there, getting up and behind him. Nice and aggressive chase from Michael, and that's definitely giving him a strong advantage.
Now the positions are switched, and we see Michael Bonney out in front, who seems to have the superior speed there. But as the positions are switched, Matt Harvey has no problem sticking with him either. But then heading wide there as he's come up the hill, just seems to on that transition maybe carried a bit too much speed and just washed the rear of that car out wide.
Yeah, you can see in Albon's replay here that he's pushed it just too hard in that smoke, as you say, Dave. And that's a shame, because Matt Harvey looking like that was potentially going to go for an OMT, or he might have stole that win off him.
Made the call a little bit easier on you guys now, but one that's sure to be a difficult battle to call is Shane Van Gisbergen out in front of Jordan Graham in that all-carbon fibre 180SX. Nicely emulated from Jordan Graham there, but it seems that the Giz just has that little bit more angle, that little bit more speed, and is all over the clipping points to boot, pulling maybe a car length, maybe a touch less across the finish line, Dan.
Well, you're nearly correct, but if you watch here in the switchback, Giz is actually a little bit further off. You're supposed to have that front wheel on the yellow line. He's a little bit off the clip there. That's allowing Jordan to get into that spot again, off the clips there. So a couple of pretty substantial deductions from Giz, and I'm leaning a little bit towards Jordan on this one, so we'll have to see how Giz's chase run goes.
It's certainly up in the air between the two drivers, so the judge is saying a clear advantage there for Giz, but Jordan Graham hopping up over the gutter there and forcing Shane Van Gisbergen into a straighten there. That's a hard one. But then, oh man, this is one of the things I love about running under lights, the big old gate flame out the bonnet. How good's that?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and having all that light, or the dark, I guess, not the light, you can see sparks flying, gate flame. It's an awesome show. You can see here Jordan going a little bit offline, but if you have a look in the background, you can see Shane slightly over-rotated there as well. So for us, the reason why it went OM2 is because we gave that a 0-0.
There you have it. Now for the next battle, we have Yokoi facing off against Brody Mayer, who seemed to, maybe just button off the power there, or potentially having a mechanical. But either way, you can't give our reigning D1 GP champion an inch on a layout like this, let alone letting him run unaccompanied.
So Brody, Yokoi is just so fast out of the gate. Brody just getting a little bit offline there, coming in too shallow and just skipping across that curve, unsettling the front wheels, and then no front wheels on the ground, no steer, Dave.
Definitely seemed to get a little bit lost, but repeating that line again while Yokoi is just right there, ready to chase, tucking in nicely there with beautiful emulation up the hill. This is that Japan driving line I love to see. It's funny to see a faster car in the chase putting off less smoke than the lead car, and that's one that I'm going to be watching.
Well, watch Yokoi too here. He's very, very technical driver. He comes from a slightly more adjusted line to make sure he still picks up those clips, but he switches out wider and then comes in to hit those points. Unfortunately, we didn't see the replay, just the last one, but very calculated driver. He's going to be one to watch the whole way through.
Into the battle of the brothers now, with Warwick Hill in the white JZ-powered E46 BMW being chased by his brother Matty Hill in that Foreman's fluoro yellow S15. Both drivers driving beautifully here. Matty with quite nice emulation in the chase there, but dropping a wheel through that last clipping point on the front. Hard battle to call down.
Yeah, real tricky one. Warwick's just a little way off the clip there, making an error. Matty getting right up there. Now, that's to me attributed to this next error where Matty goes a little bit wide, because Warwick got himself back online, but Matty's still trying to recover from that offline initially. So ended up being pretty even. Obviously Warwick leading first because he managed to accumulate more points in the pool rounds and therefore giving himself the top step to start with.
Quite a nice chase technique from Matty Hill either way, regardless of the line though. Quite nice there on the proximity, and even early on this run, Warwick doesn't seem to be matching that distance there, and you can't quite blame it on, a difference in power, a difference in the cars. It just seems to be that Matt is just that little bit more confident driving in that close position, and as we see it slow down, Warwick there just seems to be bobbling away a little bit and seems like an obvious call down.
Yeah, Matty Hill getting the win on that. Not as obvious as you'd think. It was very, very close. In fact, in the end, only separated by just 1 point from the judges. But yeah, a few errors from Matt in the lead. Warwick not quite able to get that proximity. That's what did it.
Now some power out on the track. Nathan Greenhill up against Andy Gray in that Power Vehicles JZX 100, a driver that I always love watching for moments like that. Pulls in the proximity all over the car in front, but never losing drift. Just comes through really nice on the line there, all over the bumper of Greenhill.
You can see the experience of Andy Gray here when Nathan just has that little balk and bobble. Andy just sort of falls up behind him, adds a little bit of angle, then stands back on the loud pedal, regathers that proximity and goes firing through, taking a good advantage.
Let's see how much of a difference in speed there is as they turn around. Greenhill sticking nicely with Andy Gray there on the entry. Here comes the power though, and that gripped up JZX 100 just like a slingshot coming out of the bottom of that corner there, climbing up the hill and rocketing away for a dominant lead.
You're seeing the album's replay here. You can see this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. If you get that first corner right, you can rocket up the hill, and Andy Gray demonstrating perfectly how to do that, taking the win, and he's down the pits with J-Mac.
Here with Andy Gray, fresh off a win, which will see him through to a top 8 battle against Matty Hill. You just watched your own battle from your spotter's point of view. Give yourself a little bit of critiquing. How did that run look from where you were?
I mean, I'm always happiest close up to the other car, but the problem is it's such a short run-up and you don't know the other driver, so you're kind of feeling each other out in a very short distance. But yeah, he was going good. I didn't know what to really expect so much, so tried not to give him too much, tried not to get caught in the pocket, and yeah, I don't know what my lead lap was like. It felt good from with my position, but I'm just glad to get the win and get through and have a battle with Matty now, I think.
Straight back into it, and we have the rerun from the battle we saw earlier of that one more time with Jordan Graham up against Shane Van Gisbergen in the MCA suspension 370Z. Quite a neat run here, but then Jordan Graham straightening up a little bit as he hops over the gutter there, giving just that last portion of the run to Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah, Shane really tuning up that run there and making sure, look, he's picking up every clip just a little bit closer than he was last time. You remember he was sitting off that yellow line this time, bang on it. Jordan, unfortunately, not being able to keep up, trying to shallow a little bit to gain that proximity and making the error.
We'll have them switched around now as Jordan Graham gets the opportunity to lead. Let's see how he tips it in against the barriers there. Nice and aggressive on the angle of the entry, but Shane Van Gisbergen right with him as they switch back, tucking in nicely here with great emulation and proximity, reeling him in up the hill. What a chase from Shane Van Gisbergen.
Absolute cracker of a chase run. Shane Van Gisbergen right from the get-go getting in and on that door and demonstrating this is possibly the best chase we've seen all weekend so far. Look at that proximity. Shane Van Gisbergen demonstrating why he's in the top 16 and now in the top 8.
Big result there. It's good to see the guys having a smile, having a handshake down in the pits, and that's what drifting's all about. You really are putting your style and skills up against the other driver, and in this situation, Van Giz just got through with that tiny little bit extra. Bo Yates now leading Troy Jenkins. The battle of the 8.6s, both of these big power JZs under the bonnet. Fairly similar vehicles, so it's interesting to see them go up against each other. Bo Yates will be a bit more comfortable in the lead. Let's quickly catch up with Jordan Graham down in the pits with J-Mac.
The carbon fibre 2J powered 180SX got you through to a one more time up against the MCA drift car with Shane Van Gisbergen at the wheel. How does that battle rate out of your entire drifting history?
Yeah, definitely a highlight. Like, Shane's always been awesome. Like, I love watching him on the screen, drifting around on the V8s, doing his victory skids and playing around. He's always been good to watch. So yeah, it's really good to go up against Shane. Yeah, I wish him all the best for the rest of the comp.
Going back to the replay now and listen to that anti-lag from Bo Yates' weapon. It was a bit of banter in the pits earlier between Troy and Bo. Troy saying that, you know, his car's a little bit better built than Bo Yates' car. And I mean, that thing is pretty immaculate, but you can see as far as drivers go in that run, it was Bo Yates laying down the line and demonstrating that you can't talk smack about his car or he'll send it.
Love a bit of banter between drivers, but it's all settled out on the track. And Troy Jenkins out in front with Bo right there with him as they switch back together. Both these cars seem quite well matched in terms of speed, meaning they can drive flat out. But it looks to me like Bo Yates is all over the back bumper of Troy Jenkins.
Small little error from Bo at the start, but then he just settles it down and gets right back into that door. Chases up nicely through the clips, clipping everything he needs to hit, making sure he's right there as they come around the final corner. Bo Yates is going to take the win and move into the top 8.
A big result there for a battle that really could have gone either way. Cool to see Troy Jenkins across the Dutch here driving with us, but Bo Yates getting the result there, moving through to the top 8. We have our last top 16 battle in front of us now. X-Drift piloted by Danny Probert, who seems to be having a few steering issues there, while Botcher in the chase. Came in a little bit hot, saw that XD Falcon spinning in front, went, oh, you know what, I'll just chill out here for a second while still maintaining my drift. Back on the power, off you go. What a drive.
Yeah, have a look at the front wheel here. It just looks like it's not quite doing, whether it's under. I'm not sure whether it was from that hit earlier in the weekend, but yeah, X-Drift just unfortunately not behaving the way Danny Probert wanted it, and that's quite obviously a clear victory there in that first run for Josh.
I'm really loving watching Josh Botcher drive lately. He's got that perfect balance between, you know, aggression, and you can see that he's hungry for the win, but also clinical precision, knowing where to put the car. And it's situations like that where an unexpected error in front of you really forces you to think about what you're doing in that split second, that highlights the level of skill that he's got behind the wheel. Danny Probert doing everything in his power to reel this battle back into his control, but I'd say that's a pretty clear result there with Josh Botcher dominating in both the lead and the chase.
Yeah, look, it's great to see Danny progressing so far along in just his short, I guess, national career, coming all the way from the Northern Territory. But you're exactly right, Dave. Josh Botcher's going to win that one and move on into the top 8.
And here is our top 8 drift ladder now. We've got Michael Bonney facing off against Matt Van Kirk, Shane Van Gisbergen up against the D1 GP champion Masashi Yokoi. Matty Hill will be battling Andy Gray, the Power Vehicles veteran, and Josh Botcher up against Bo Yates. Some serious matchups there in the top 8 of the Garrett International Drifting Cup. We're going to go to a short break, but on the other side it's coming thick and fast while we decide our podium. I can't wait. Welcome back to the 2019 Garrett International Drifting Cup, Sydney Motorsport Park here on the South Circuit for the first time in 5 years. It's a rare treat to see drifting on this layout on its own, but under lights, I absolutely love it. We're getting closer and closer to that Celebrations victory lane, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here thinking about a beverage, but first, our top 8, and here we have Michael Bonney leading Matt Van Kirk. Tip it in! Nicely done there on the inside clip. Matt Van Kirk seems to be on the brakes through that whole middle section there, washing off a lot of road speed. Still managing to reel in Michael Bonney a little bit, but he seemed to be driving out there unopposed in front.
Yeah, Michael Bonney just doing what he needs to do again. He's been so consistent this whole weekend, just clipping the clips, working his way through. It looks to me like he's got a little bit more wheel speed and a bit more grip in that car now that we're moving into the afternoon. So maybe he's set the car up for an evening. Bit of a weird jump there, but let's see how they go in the return battle.
Matt Van Kirk's turned to lead now with a nice faint entry, but Michael Bonney right there with him. Again, it looks like Van Kirk just a little bit slower through the midsection there, which balked Michael Bonney a little bit in a very gripped up and very powerful S15. Through the rest of the section, though, they are both on that power up and over the top of the hill.
Matt Van Kirk there getting it a little bit wrong in the start there, and then as they switch back here, just closing the door too much on Bonnie, forcing Bonnie to drop that wheel. He shouldn't have been in there. In fact, they both did. Let's get down to J-Mac.
Michael Bonnie through to the next round of eliminations. A great battle there, taking out FD driver Matt Van Kirk. How many times have you come up against him in the past?
I don't think I've ever come up with him in battles, but we've definitely had quite a few practice runs back home in Melbourne. And yeah, he's a grouse driver to battle with.
A grouse driver to battle with. I absolutely love it. Looking forward to your semi-final?
Yeah, pretty pumped to make it through, so hopefully we put on the show and come through on top.
Best of luck, mate.
Thank you.
I always love Michael Bonnie's attitude. You can see he struggled to wipe the smile off his face before he'd even started talking. Anyway, back into the action. Shane Van Gisbergen out in front, up against Masashi Yokoi. Both of these drivers with motorsport pedigree behind them. One from the V8 Supercars, one from D1 GP. Both absolute animals behind the wheel. And as we head to the Albans replay now, we'll see exactly why.
I'm really surprised to see. I mean, I knew Yokoi's been very quick all weekend, but that MCA car has been lightning fast, and Yokoi making him look like he's slow. Shane getting into those clips and leaving the right amount of distance. Yokoi getting into that pocket. Look at him go here.
Very, very quick car. Looks like Shane Van Gisbergen almost a little bit unsettled by the additional speed of the lead car there. But he is trying to reel Yokoi in up the hill, just climbing, trying to get there. It's a nice clean battle from the two, but Yokoi's speed is unmatched.
Absolutely, he is so fast. I was amazed at how quick he got away from that MCA car, which is a quick car in itself. The big gap he's generated there while on the line is just too much. And Yokoi with that tight chase in the first battle, he's going to take the win.
Here's another sure to be interesting battle. The roles reverse with Matty Hill obviously driving with Andy Gray over at Ebisu a bunch of times, but you switch that around. Andy Gray now in the chase on the home turf. Doesn't look phased down under in that Power Vehicles JZX 100, but as we say it, the commentators curse. Andy getting a little bit lost in the smoke there as he switched back trying to get on the door of Warwick Hill. I think he's just run out of track, maybe expecting there to be a bit more room.
Yeah, it was one of those things, and Andy said it himself, you know, you get lost in the smoke. A bit of an interesting start from Matty Hill. Maybe he missed a gear or something, I'm not sure, but you can see, again, really baking those tyres. Andy switched, trying to guessed a little bit early, and unfortunately, that illuminated cone that we did have there may have had its lights put out.
Yeah, really driving from memory in these sorts of layouts, and I think it's from that first switchback there that caused it, you know, being on the rear quarter of Matty Hill's car rather than the door. As he switched back, he just ended up half a car width over onto the side of the track. That's enough to be on the grass here, so you can see Andy keen to put on a show and say, hey, look, you know, I know exactly what I'm doing, and putting on a great lead run there with killer speed, but I don't know if that mistake's going to be able to be overlooked there by the judges.
Yeah, no, we couldn't overlook a four wheels off, unfortunately, and so Matty Hill's going to get the win. He's with J-Mac down in the pits.
Matty Hill, congratulations. You should have heard the team erupt into cheers as they heard the result. You got a great group around you.
Mate, there would have been pants down, shirts flying. I can just imagine the team are great. Yeah, look, that was awesome. Me and Andy have come together a few times in Japan before, and I think even once here. But yeah, look, real tough driver. Like I said, we're going to keep fighting. Glad we got through. Top four, here we are.
The last of our top 8 battles, two drivers equally hungry to make it through into the top 8 who's come up against each other in battles a number of times now. Josh Botcher leading Bo Yates out in the lead, who made an uncharacteristic mistake there, dropping a wheel on the inside of the track onto the dirt. That's going to be a deduction from the judges, and really seemed to be just slightly outclassed in speed by Botcher as well.
Yeah, not a lot in it, but that wheel drop there hurts a little bit. Obviously, Josh is offline as well, so a little bit of equal deduction there, and it's pretty close.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked that one, Dan. It was a considerable distance off that inside clip there, so a little bit equal here. I mean, a wheel drop normally trumps those things, but that was a big gap. So with the two together, it's all going to be on how Josh Botcher chases, and he is tucked right in there, practically in the passenger seat of Bo Yates's Toyota Genuine Parts 8.6.
A cracking battle there and a really good chase. It was something that Josh needed to do, and he's executed it perfectly. He's down in the pits now with J-Mac, so let's get down and see what he's got to say.
Josh Botcher, the winner out of Yates v Botcher, and you are through. That was your top 8 battle into the top 4 now. How have you gone sticking to your mental plan to slow things down and be restrained on the way into turn 1?
Yeah, well, really it was when we had that larger run-up yesterday. it was the higher speed was just being it was a tricky thing to enter with that higher speed. So we sort of measured the speed, and really that was where we are now. It was about the speed that we can get to, and we just take off as fast as we can. So, but yeah, we kept the foot down, and we're all good.
So there you have it, our top 8 decided, and we're into the top 4, the pointy end of the Garrett Advancing Motion International Drifting Cup. On one side of the tree, we have Masashi Yokoi up against Michael Bonney, 2 big power S15s facing off, while Matty Hill and Josh Botcher face off on the other side, also in S15s. Sylvia's represented here as the iconic drift chassis.
It's a real fast format, and I can't believe we're already into the top 4, but we're going to send him again, and look, here goes Yokoi.
Oh, huge speed off the start line. Give him a short run up, a long run up. He'll be on the power the whole way down to the entry. And again, demonstrating that Japanese driving style. You can see Bonney behind blazing away, but Yokoi, tiny little bit of smoke behind the car because he's focusing on what the car is actually doing in terms of style and going fast.
Interesting run here from Yokoi. He made some errors, but unfortunately for Bonney, being gapped so much at the start there, he wasn't in the pocket there to take advantage of it. So it's a little bit of an even one again, a slight advantage maybe to Yokoi.
I love watching Yokoi off the line there, the front end of that car dipping as he's off the throttle a little bit going, what is this lead car going to do? But straight back on the power. Looked like a tiny mistake there, not running wide enough in the middle section of the track, but using that tactically to just reel Bonney in through the rest of that run there. So, you know, I'd see him as being almost equal if there wasn't that earlier mistake from Bonney.
Yeah, look, you're right, a slight mistake, but I think that was just Yokoi trying to slow it up a little bit there. He then demonstrates the superior speed, gets on top of it, and makes sure he gets through and takes the win. J-Max down to chat to Michael Bonney after being beaten by Yokoi.
One in particular, Michael Bonney, you are now battling it out for third place. Third is still a great result if you can make it there.
Yeah, that's it. We'll give it our best, and hopefully we can get that third spot.
Tough times out there in that last battle against Masashi Yokoi. Still a fantastic run by yourself up to this one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. He's super fast on that takeoff. Unfortunately, I wasn't expecting that, and yeah, he left me for dead.
The other side of the tree about to be decided now. Matty Hill playing a few games off the start line there, leaving Botcher waiting as they came off the line. Also quite a big angle entry there from Matty Hill. Straight back on the power, but Josh Botcher is not fooled. Seeing the Foreman's S15 in front there seemed to be a little bit down on speed and power, but Botcher all over him. That's how I saw it anyway, but let's hear from the man himself, Tsuchiya Senpai.
クリーンバトル。ストレートがスタートしてから1コーナーまでのクリーンバトルで。
It was a really clean battle coming from the start line into corner number 1, and as everybody saw, it was very evident.
そうだからもう横井は厳重注意。
And drifting is a warning to Yokoi.
ストレートでスタートしてから左に寄せたら危険行為を取る。
If Yokoi goes any more into the center line after he starts, he's going to deduct many points for that.
Speaking about deductions, I'd imagine Matty Hill in his lead run would have lost a couple of points as well for washing off quite a lot of speed mid-corner. Seems to be down on speed here as well as Josh Botcher easily pulls away. We've seen it earlier in the battles tonight that once a gap is opened on that first corner entry, it's very hard to reel it in back up the hill, especially when you're facing off against the likes of Josh Botcher in that gripped up S15.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Dave. Matty Hill needed to be faster and slingshotting through that racing line like Tsuchiya had asked him for in that midsection, causing Botcher to get too close and making a couple of one-wheel deductions. Would have been a bigger number otherwise, but you can see here Botcher demonstrating far more superior speed, and of course he gets the win.
So Botcher will be facing off up against Masashi Yokoi for the top step of the Garrett International Drifting Cup, while Michael Bonney and Matty Hill battle it out to see who's going to take home that trophy in third.
Well, I don't have him with me, but you can see him just over my left shoulder. Masashi Yokoi, the very picture of calm, taking some time to smile and wave at the camera. But come with me. We have a frenzy of activity happening right here in the GT Radial S15 pits of Josh Botcher. It's incredible to see that these two drivers both seem to be operating on totally different adrenaline levels. Masashi Yokoi has been rock solid right up to this point. Has he got what it takes to take out the Garrett International Drifting Cup, or will Josh Botcher go to great local success? The tale will be played out right here on the South Circuit at Sydney Motorsport Park. Back to you guys.
What a contrast between the two. But first, we're going to see that battle for third. Matty Hill again slow off the line. I'm not sure what's quite going on there. Michael Bonney pretty much having to roll straight off it to make sure that he lets Matty Hill enter first. I mean, how close do you get to the corner, Dan, before you consider it an overtake?
Well, I don't know whether Matty Hill's running a really tall first gear with a winter's quick change and obviously interchangeable gear sets within the gearbox. He could be just on a really big gear that's hard to push off up that hill, but certainly it's getting pretty close where you sort of say, you know, you need to get moving, Matty Hill, to get into the battle before we're trying to sort things out on the start line. Michael Bonney, though, doing a very good job, making a couple of little errors in behind him, but of course, again, Matty Hill not very quick through that section at all, which is something that Tsuchiya-san definitely said he wanted to see.
I think you're being quite kind there, Dan, but anyway, let's switch them around. We have Michael Bonney in front. Matty Hill now seems to be chasing him, but washing quite wide there through that midsection and just not quite getting the line down while Michael Bonney goes through unopposed. A little bit off the cliffs if I'm being super critical, but you know, there's so much distance there between the two. It's just a shame to see that battle for third so easily handed to Michael Bonney.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we were expecting to see people door on door by the time you get to the top four, and Matty Hill, unfortunately, just not even in the ballpark there.
It happens, though. We're moving through to our final. Josh Botcher representing Australia up against Masashi Yokoi representing D1GP as the reigning champion in that D-Max S15. Both drivers chucking it in. Botcher bettering the angle of Yokoi, but Yokoi on the speed there. Botcher right there with him, one of the few drivers to keep up with Masashi Yokoi in this competition so far. Losing him a little bit through the last section there. Very fast run from both drivers. Let's head to Toshi and Tsuchiya to see what they thought.
まあ横井が左に寄せすぎでしょ、ストレートで。
But on the straight, he felt that Yokoi was a little bit too much to the left.
でもまあ後追いもね結構頑張ってて。
But the chase car tried really hard.
距離がもうちょっと詰めてればチェイスカーが6だね。
If there was a little bit less distance between the cars, maybe the chase car could have got a 6.
You could see Yokoi just pulling away that little bit over the hill there, and it's so interesting to hear from Tsuchiya how much he values what the chase car is doing. So as we switch them around, it seems to be a bit of a level playing field. We have Yokoi chasing Botcher now as they come up the hill. Both cars switching back. Yokoi with him, jumping the curb, but no! He's run wide. Masashi Yokoi wheels off the track. Everybody's stunned. Toshi frozen in disbelief. Nobody saw this coming.
Mr. Consistent all week and makes an error in the final, and Yokoi drops 3 wheels. Who would have read about that?
Huge result there for the Australian, taking scalps left and right. Josh Botcher securing not only the International Drifting Cup trophy, but the bragging rights to knocking out the reigning D1GP champion. That is a huge result, Dan. The team is stoked. You can see just raw enthusiasm down in the pits as Josh Botcher whips his helmet off. That is a massive result for the Garrett International Drifting Cup. There you have it. Josh Botcher, Masashi Yokoi, and Michael Bonney securing third place. Let's head down to J-Mac in Celebrations Victory Lane.
Josh Botcher taking the eventual win. A white knuckle ride every time you entered that track, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate, it was. It's a full-on track with that shallow line is tricky. It's not what we're used to, but you just got to go flat out. And especially in that final battle with Yokoi, he's that quick. I knew I had to do everything, and yeah, just held on for the ride. And this car's amazing. And to come here, you know, and win the thing against someone like Yokoi is amazing.
Raw emotion is oozing from Josh Botcher, and you can see the respect amongst this entire pool of drivers as the champagne pops in Celebrations Victory Lane. Dan, I find myself reflecting on what an amazing event this has been.
I'm totally stoked with how the event's turned out. We've got some amazing battles, some awesome results. I know that Celebrations is going to be helping those boys celebrate. The Garrett turbos are glowing, and of course Valino tyres are getting smoked.
Great to hear from Dan Mackey on the judging panel. I've been Dave Carter up here in the booth, and thanks again to J Mack as our pit reporter. We'll see you next time.